up with this optimization oracle, where you solve cost-weighted binary classification problems at each step. In fact, the most recent solution is so awesome that it does, like for a T-round contextual bandit problem, it doesn't even call that optimization problem once per round. It only calls it on square root T rounds. So the number of rounds you solve the optimization problem is a vanishing fraction of. So the computational characteristics of that algorithm are really, really good. And I doubt if you can bring it down further. Like it probably has hit some information creating bottleneck. Okay, so last part, where we're talking about contextual bandit problems. So I get IID draws of context and rewards at each step. But instead of trying to compete with the policy class, I'm more interested in modeling this reward function. And what's the first model that comes to your mind, right? Like maybe one of the first will come to your mind is just a linear model, right? So what if I'm happy to say that in addition to this IID assumption that my x's and the rewards are drawn from a distribution, there's actually, I also put a model on the conditional, R conditioned on x, right? So I say that RA, the reward I get by action A, is some linear function of the context, plus maybe random Gaussian noise, right? And how do I define my regret now? Well, if I make this assumption, then if this is the truth, then the right thing to do in any context is kind of clear, right? Expected value of RAT, this is mean 0, so it's just beta A transpose x. So in any given context, I should just take the inner product of xt with these k different regression vectors, and whichever one gives me the biggest answer, that's what I should do, right? If I knew all the beta A's. So this becomes my yardstick, right? That's my optimal policy. The policy that in any given context computes beta 0 transpose x, beta 1 transpose x, suppose there are only two actions. Whichever one is maximum, I go with that. And I want to do as well as this guy. So this is my regret. My total rewards subtracted from the value of this policy. Okay? And here's an algorithm. It looks, it kind of looks long on this slide, but the idea is very simple, and again you can connect it back to Robin's original idea. It's another of those algorithms where the overall structure is very similar to this separation of exploration and exploitation. In fact, this even uses the same type of idea that you will pre-specify exploration times for different actions. Okay, so you choose one sequence of numbers for each action, and if your current time happens to be one of those exploration times, you just say, okay, it's an exploration round, so I know I have to do action A. But now you do action A, you get new information, you get the reward from that action for that particular context that you happen to be. So you can update your estimate of beta hat A. Right? So remember, for all of the contexts where I do action A, I get to observe this number. Right? So I can just do least squares. I can just estimate beta A from those samples. So in Robin's algorithm, that estimation was just sample mean. But now we are in a regression world, so it's the analog of mean computation is like solving least squares, right? That's how it builds up, right? So instead of updating the sample mean, what you do is you update a least square estimate. But in this case, actually, it's a little more subtle. You maintain two sets of estimates for each action. One estimate which only uses data from pure exploration rounds. So even if let's say you're talking about action 0, as you look back into your history, the times where you took action 0, those times are themselves divided into two types of times. Ones that were pure exploration times and ones that were exploitation. So in one case, in the beta tilde, you only use sort of more pure data, so to speak, because you were randomizing. And in beta hat, you use all of the data. And when the time comes for exploiting your knowledge, what you say is you say that the guys that were estimated using less data, namely only exploration data, do those estimates already tell me that there is enough gap? this is the, for this context, this is the sort of the treatment effect, right? It's the effect of, or at least the absolute value. It's the edge that action 1 has over action 0. And this edge could be either, a positive or negative, it could be worse or better. But you just look at the absolute value. If it's big enough, you say, okay, my pure exploration round estimates already are telling me there is enough separation, so let me just go ahead and believe them. But if they don't have enough separation, then I would fall back to my estimates computing that are computed using all of the data. And what can you show about this algorithm? So you can actually show, again, distribution dependent. So the constants I'm hiding in the order notation here are dependent on distribution dependent quantities like the margin. Right? So in what does the margin mean here? So they analyze this algorithm, where by they I mean Golden, Schluger, and Zevi. Actually a fairly recent paper. So D is just the dimension of your beta vectors, which is also the same dimension as your context vectors. So it's some polynomial in that dimension log t, and what the constant that's hiding here depends on a margin condition. What do I mean by a margin condition? The margin condition says something like this: with very high probability over the choice of your context, there will be enough separation between the quality of the two actions, right? So basically it's saying, so when you just had a multi-arm bandit problem, there was only the gap, right? There was just delta A. In fact, if you have two actions, there's only one quantity that somehow measures the difficulty of the problem. What's the gap between action arm 1's mean and arms 2 mean? But now we have context. So it could be that for some context there is huge gap, for some other context there is a small gap, right? But this is saying the margin condition ensures that for most contexts there is large enough gap, and that gap is hidden in this order notation. Just like if I summarize the UCB bound and I removed all the constants that depended on the gap, I would just say, oh, it is an order log t bound, but what is hidden there is some notion of the gap. Similarly here, what is hidden here is this gap between the quality of the two actions, but here the extra complication is that this gap depends on which context we are talking about. So somehow that gap has to exist with high probability for most of the, like say 90% of the context you have large gap, something like that. And to say something that we briefly mentioned before is you can do this type of linear modeling in high dimensions, right? So maybe I am gathering 200 variables about my patients, but maybe not all of those 200 variables are really relevant to predicting that reward, the steps they take. So I can write down this high dimensional linear model. So D could be very, very large, like maybe 1000. I'm measuring 1000 things, and but the sparsity, but these coefficients vectors might be sparse. They are vectors in very high dimensions, but they only have a small number of non-zero entries. If you are willing to make that assumption, then you can remember these are estimation steps, right? So I was doing vanilla least squares, but I can do penalized least squares, right? So I can do a lasso step here, and in fact that was done. So Basmani and Bayati, this is actually not even published; it just is an archive paper right now, where they build on this approach. And they change these two estimations to a lasso estimation, and they show that instead of getting dimension to the 3, which like if dimension is 1000, you don't want that, you actually get sparsity. Some polynomial powers of the S is the number of non-zero coefficients in these regression vectors, and the dependence on dimension is just log. So that's kind of nice. Of course, it relies on this assumption of sparsity. So you make an assumption and you get something out of it. It's not kind of out of nowhere. So any questions about this particular algorithm? I to be honest, I don't understand intuitively why it could. My guess is that it is purely for technical reasons that they are keeping around these two sets of estimates. Like they probably needed something in the proof. Like I cannot imagine that it is inherently needed. You have to maintain two estimates for each arm. I mean, it should be possible to just keep one estimate. So I don't think it is really important. But the point I think to remember here is that the template is very similar to Robbins, except that the mean estimation step, when you get new information, is now replaced by the least square step, and exploitation is just exploitation. Instead of going with the arm that just has the higher sample mean, you use the context, you plug your estimated beta in, and then you say, okay, I'll go with whichever one is large. I think that's what you should remember. And once you're doing the linear modeling, you start doing other stuff, right? You can try to do a high dimensional extension. You can also do like some kind of structured sparsity. Like you can say, oh, the sparsity in the beta is like shared, right? So it's the same set of features that light up across different betas. So then you might want to do like a group lasso type of penalization, if you know what I'm talking about. Four more minutes. So actually, yeah, I don't have much left. So in the multi-arm bandit problem section, we saw Robbins' forcing algorithm, a variant of this, which is epsilon greedy. You can clearly do epsilon greedy here. I mean, it won't take much effort to write down the algorithm. What about Thompson sampling in UCB? I'm not giving you the algorithms, but I'm giving you references to papers. That also has been done. So you might do this kind of linear modeling, but instead of staying close to Robbins' original approach, you might want to do something like a UCB for these linear models. That gives you an algorithm called LinUCB. And you can also do Thompson sampling. You can maintain posterior distributions over these beta k's. And then you sample from that, you get k vectors, and you just say, okay, let me just compute the inner product with all of those k and go with the maximum. And you can show nice properties of that algorithm also. That's quite recent actually, 3-4 years ago. And you can go non-parametric, right? You can say, okay, instead of saying it's a linear model, maybe I have some non-parametric model. These functions are defined only through some smoothness properties. You can do that. Again, I don't want to go into the details, but just tell you that all sorts of freedoms that you have in the regression framework, you can use them here. And there's actually a paper using these smoothness type non-parametric classes and using them in this contextual bandit framework. Of course, from the title of this paper, you would never know that it's a contextual bandit paper because different communities, different words. But it is essentially, this paper appeared in the Annals, I think, 2002. Essentially, a non-parametric approach to, in the regression perspective, a non-parametric regression approach to solve the contextual bandit problem. And in fact, they do epsilon greedy. So, one thing I realized after teaching this course and writing the surveys is that the basic ideas from multi-arm bandit problems, they actually recur again and again, and you can map back newer things to the older ideas. So this is actually epsilon greedy, where your exploitation step basically gets new estimates from your non-parametric. It could be a nearest neighbor. It could be your favorite non-parametric regression. Okay, so I have 1 minute, just enough time to conclude. So we looked at stochastic versions of multi-arm and contextual bandit problems. I don't want to leave the impression that that's the space of bandit problems. Bandit problems it's a huge world. There are the next bullet I talk about the restless bandits. The idea being that the rewards come from a Markov chain, and even if you don't go ahead and take that action, it's a restless bandit. So the Markov chain corresponding to that action is evolving restlessly, even though you are not selecting that action. And restless bandit problems become harder because not only are you not getting information about those rewards, but even the internal state of that Markov chain has evolved if you have not explored it for 20 time steps. So you don't know where it went. So restless bandits, continuum arm bandits, where your actions are not, in the entire tutorial my actions were discrete, sometimes even binary. The only complication I brought into the problem was context. But what if your actions themselves are in some combinatorial space, a topological space, or like your actions could be paths in a graph. So people consider routing problems, like you're sending network packets from one server to another, or you're driving in a town where different streets have different congestions, and you only get to see the congestion of the street you go through, or the network packet you send only sees the delays on the route it actually takes, and you want from that to reason out which path you should have taken. So then the number of possibilities is all paths from A to B in a graph, which is a very large set. So you get combinatorial bandits. You also get dueling bandits, where instead of getting a scalar feedback for every reward we imagine what is the feedback, I go with one of the options and I get a scalar feedback, like the reward. But in dueling bandits, you go with two actions and you get a relative feedback. Oh, this was better than that one. But you don't get a numerical scalar. So you just get relative feedback. That with or without context, there's also a contextual version of this. But instead of getting a scalar version of the quality of an arm, you only get relative judgments. This was better than that. Arm acquiring bandits, the set of arms could increase over time. That might happen. Linear bandits is a special case of actually continuum arm bandits. Your actions themselves are vectors in a linear space. That also happens. So I don't want you to think that I covered all, even though this is a tutorial on bandits, but I really just looked at two types of bandit problems. There are many other types of bandit problems. We also looked only at regret. So this tutorial might give you the false impression that expected regret is all that people care about. No, maybe you don't want, maybe expected regret is not enough. Maybe you're in some critical application and an occasional high regret is bad, right? So maybe you want high probability guarantees. Maybe you want to make sure that it's not just on average you get low regret. You want low regret with very high probability. Or maybe you have some kind of risk averse formulation where you trade off the mean of the arm with the variance, right? So this, what's it called, like the Markowitz, the portfolio, the things that they use in portfolio optimization, where you take the mean and square root of the standard, like mean plus variance type of combinations. Another version is best arm identification. So this is often what you're doing, like in clinical trials, is like your objective is not to optimize performance during the learning phase. You just want to figure out which drug is better. You don't care about the performance during that trial. So best arm identification. So I give you these K arms, instead of minimizing regret, you might say that minimize my budget such that I have a very high like I can say with high confidence that one arm is definitely epsilon better than the other. Or given a budget, what's the best I can say? Like what estimate, what guarantees can I say about the effect of the treatment if there are only two, like no treatment versus treatment, if those are your two options. Definitely, I would like all of you to remember these 4 design patterns because they reoccur a lot. Forced exploration with some kind of obvious exploitation on the exploitation steps. That goes back to Robin's original idea. A stochastic version of it, which is epsilon greedy. The algorithms that are based on confidence bounds, and the ones that are based on this Bayesian idea of keeping posteriors around and sampling from the posterior. And finally, if there's nothing else you remember from the contextual bandit part, at least remember the basic formulation and the fact that there are at least 2 perspectives on this problem. They're not as black and white as I made them to be. You could combine them, but definitely there are these 2 perspectives. And there are, as I said, feel free to email me if you have any questions. There are also the class web page, which if you click on these links, then it just takes you to the. Oh, maybe I'm not connected to the. Oh, I am. How did I connect? Oh, edu room. Okay, good. Yeah, so there are I go through all these algorithms much more slowly and give proofs and stuff like that. And there's also a book chapter going to appear in a Springer book on mobile health that just talks about contextual bandits. And then references. I think these references are important for later if you want to delve deeper into it. That's it, my friends.